Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Old Scribes with my partner in crime, George Willis here. George, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well.
All right, we got a special guest to me, one of my good friends, longtime broadcaster and sports reporter in the Phoenix area, and formerly before that in El Paso, native of San Antonio. Guy who's covered everything from NFL to NBA to MLB to boxing, you name it. This guy's the guy. Richard Saenz, welcome to the show.
Man, thanks for having me on. I didn't know the name of the show is Old Guys. Is that what you said?
Old
No wonder you asked me to
Scribes.
be on. Oh. I was
Old
like,
Scribes.
I'm an OG, but I guess that stands for old guy.
You're
And
like,
away we go. I'm like,
you're
I'm
like-
ready. I'm getting haymakers.
Yeah.
First
I don't,
sentence.
you're like, I don't
We got old
qualify.
guys on the show. I'm like, oh, man. No wonder I got called in.
Yeah, we just tell stories. That's all we do. We just tell
Right.
more stories.
Remember
Right.
back in my day, we had to walk around.
Exactly.
Richard, tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now. I know it's with you. It's everything all the time. But you just finished with the show. What'd you talk about?
I'm living the dream, man. You know, it beats working for a living. I'm getting paid to talk about sports, you know. Yeah, today was a great day. Pitchers and catchers reporting, you know, the crack of the bat, you know, the ball popping on the mitt there. It's great, man. The cleats on the concrete. So, yeah, the D-backs are, you know, excited about their offseason moves. They got Corbin Burns, you know, the biggest free agent pitcher out there is now with the D-backs, and he wanted to come to the D-backs. He actually came to them where he wasn't even on their radar. And then he ends up wanting to live in Arizona. So his agent calls the D-backs. It's kind of like, you know, when you're in the club and the hot girl looks at you and you look behind me like, me? You're like, no, you, I'm talking to you. Come here. That's what happened with the D-backs, with Corbin Burns. They got called out by the hot girl. They took her to the prom.
Wow, that's good for them. Good for them.
Yeah.
What's the expectations of the team this year? I mean, it's always a pretty competitive club.
Yeah, of course, you know, they're in the same division as the Dodgers, and so they're pretty loaded, right? But you know, this franchise was just in the World Series a couple years ago, right? And they kind of, you know, exceeded expectations in that World Series run. Then last year, I honestly thought they looked better on paper than they did the year before. But they let a couple games slip here and there, and I think it was a lesson learned, and it should be for even the younger players out there that, hey, every game counts. You know, there may be over 160 games, but every game, and it came down to them missing the playoffs by one game, and that was a major lesson they had to learn. And then this year, they make some, you know, offseason additions like Corbin Burns. They got Josh Naylor at first base now. Christian Walker went to Houston. I was hoping he would have gone to the Texas Rangers, could have been Christian Walker, Texas Ranger, but it didn't work out for him that way. But yeah, it was kind of, you know, Josh Naylor's a legit guy, 27. He's got a good pop in his bat. So people are excited. People are excited about the D-backs team.
That's good.
What is the thing that you're most excited? You know, tell me how long you've been in Phoenix now. It's been like 20 years now, hasn't it?
Over 20 years. Yeah, I got here in 2003. I work at the local Fox affiliate, Fox 10. I tell them I'm like a stray cat you fed that's not going to go away. You know what I mean? They messed up letting me in, man. You know, I ain't leaving now. But no, it's been great. I've been here over 20 years. Got to experience quite a bit. Cover a lot of great players. You know, Larry Fitzgerald, Steve Nash, Kurt Warner, Devin Booker's great. KD, Kevin Durant's here right now. Kyler Murray, Heisman Trophy winner, Carson Palmer, I mean, so many. Muhammad Ali lived here. I know you love boxing, Matt. So yeah, it's been a unbelievable run, and I am loving every minute of it. It's funny. We just hired a new guy. We're out at, you know, spring training, and I look and I show him. I go, look at the fans. They got here early. Then I put my arm around him. I go, and we're getting paid to be here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I still have that joy, that excitement. I still love it. So it's been a fun run.
That's pretty awesome. Absolutely awesome. I know, you know, it's a hotbed city too. All the big events go there now. And
yeah,
I remember I was covering the Giants when, you know, the Cardinals moved out there and they became division rivals and things of that nature. And it was a whole lot more fun going to Phoenix than it was going to St. Louis. I'll tell you that much.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I had one year in St. Louis back in the day. and it snowed, and we got snowed in and couldn't get back home and all of that. And I was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, because back then the press box had open windows. There was none of these indoor, nothing of that. You were out with the elements. And I was so glad the Cardinals moved to Arizona. It was a much better trip. For me, I'm from Las Cruces. I'm a Borderland boy too. So going to Arizona was almost like going home at least once a year. So it was a lot of fun. Great city.
First time I ever saw LL Cool J was at the Pan Am Center in Las Cruces. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
I was telling George, we also covered some interesting Bob Knight press conferences back in the day.
Remember that? We drove to Lubbock, and we went to Bobby Knight press conference, and he was typical Bobby Knight. He was ornery. And do you remember what the kids said? They got him all fired up, Matt. Do you remember?
I don't remember. All I remember is it being pretty benign. Like it was like
the kid called the baseline the sideline, and he just went off because it's not a sideline, it's a baseline. And the poor he just ripped this kid into shreds, and we were like, dude, just relax. He's a college kid. And he was just shriveling in his seat, and we were just sitting there watching this poor kid get eaten alive. And we're like, well, at least we can say we got the Bobby Knight experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's walking off, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see what I just go. Merry Christmas, Coach. Because remember, it was Christmas time, and we thought he was going to turn around, but he just kept walking. So maybe he didn't hear me, and that might be a good thing.
Yeah, he made it come back for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, sticking with the Phoenix theme a little bit, talk about the Cards, talk about the season, and what's next for them.
Yeah, they are a team, a franchise that's trending in the right direction, right? Jonathan Gannon, Monty Austin-Ford, the GM, and the new head coach. You can tell they have changed the culture, right? And they're drafting well. They're drafting the right kind of guys. They've gone from 5 wins to 8 wins. The only disappointing thing was they had a chance to overachieve, kind of like ASU did, where we knew, okay, they're going to be better this year. And then all of a sudden they're 6-2 going into the bye week, and you're thinking, man, these guys could win the division and make the postseason, and they don't. And they had a golden opportunity there. But they were at the end of the year where I thought they would be, at the beginning of the season. They're going to get a little bit better. They're about a year away, and then next year we'll see what happens. Same thing with ASU. We thought, okay, they're going to get better, but Kenny Dillingham, boy, talk about overachieving. And he had a chance, and they took advantage of those opportunities, won those big games. The next thing you know, they're giving Texas all they could handle.
Yeah. Were you surprised by that? Did you expect that? For them to be there at that point, I guess.
Yeah, I've had a feeling they were going to be better, but I didn't think they were going to be this good, this soon. Like I said, I thought maybe like in another year, but boy, the transfer portal is different, right? It's a whole new ball game when it comes to college football, and you can turn your program around really quick, and you can also have guys leave your program really quick. And that's one thing I think Kenny Dillingham did, was he used it to his advantage. And so far, they haven't lost any people from the transfer portal, but they've gained guys, because there's kids that are watching going, man, I like this young coach. He's got swag. He's got energy. I want to play for that guy. And that's what's been happening. And it's going to be really interesting to see if they can keep this kind of momentum, right? Because it's easy to have success, but maintaining it is a completely different thing.
Yeah, right. He's kind of established himself as the new hot young coach out there. And I thought it was interesting before the playoffs began that he sort of said, guys, if you want to enter the portal, go ahead. Doesn't mean you have to leave the team or not practice or go away. He said, if you want to enter the portal, fine. You can still be part of the process and come along for the ride and contribute. And I think probably a lot of players appreciated that.
Yeah, and that's the kind of guy he is, where he's not going to beg you to stay here. He said, hey, if you want to go, go. And it's interesting because we've talked about because all the kids that he has that I'm interacting with, they're good character kids, and they get it. And it's interesting, and it gives me a kind of a hope for the future, because sometimes you're like, man, you can tell this kid didn't have a big brother. You know what I mean? He needs a big brother to straighten him out. But they draft a certain type of person, and he even said, Kenny Dillingham, that we'll say no more than we say yes. And we'll say no to a more talented player that doesn't fit the character of the type of person we want. You know what I mean? If he's a sore loser, then we don't want that kind of guy. We want a guy that will take his loss and if they go, he's like, we'll bring in a recruit and we'll kick his butt in ping pong. And if he starts sulking, then that's not the guy we want. But if he says, okay, I'm going to practice and come back and beat you guys, that's the guy they want. And that's what you need in order to win, because you're going to have adversity no matter what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's tough to do in this era.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So it's been refreshing to see that, and the way he's selling it now, which is I think is really smart, because a lot of times we would see players, because Arizona State has had some great high school players, that go on to different colleges to do well. Brock Purdy, Terrell Suggs, just to name a few, and you think, why did these guys? Well, Suggs went to ASU, but Brock Purdy, like a lot of them. Well, he says, look, you can go to Cal, you could go to USC, you could be good there, but if you ball out here at ASU, you'll be a legend here in your hometown forever, and it's going to mean more because he's from here. Kenny Dillingham is, so it means more to him. And when he got the job, he was moved to tears, and it was a job that not many people wanted because they were under sanctions. Herman was on his way out. Ray Anderson, Herman was already gone. Ray Anderson was on his way out, the athletic director, and it's kind of a sinking ship. And he's like, you know what? I'll be the captain. And they're like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. And then look at him now.
Absolutely.
Hey, Richard, is Robert Rodriguez still there at ASU?
Robert Rodriguez is still here. He's the linebacker coach for the Arizona Cardinals. He was at ASU before.
That's right.
And it's great that you bring him up, because I interviewed him, and I found old video of him playing at Mountainwood High School. I remember I did a story on him, and I used I think it was a P. Diddy song or something, Public Enemy #1. And I remember I edited it real cool to it, and I showed him the video of him like just running kids over. I'm like, you remember this kid? He's like, yeah, I remember that guy. I go, what would you tell him? He's like, well, I tell him to enjoy the ride and blah, blah, blah. Then I swiped to another video, and it's me reporting on him with my old mustache and my slick back hair. I had the 10W40 weight grease in my hair, like, do you remember that guy? And he's like, I definitely remember that guy. He talked about like getting home after a high school game, watching our show, and then watching MASH, and then going to sleep. And then to take it one step further, I took that video and I went to the linebackers of the Arizona Cardinals, didn't tell the linebackers who this video was of. I go, hey, what do you guys think about this guy? And they were like, oh, man, that guy's pretty good. He's toting it. And then I go, do you know who that is? And they're like, no. I'm like, that's your linebacker coach. They're like, that's Coach Ron? And they're like, whoa, what? They were like, no way. So it was pretty cool to see their responses.
Yeah, George, Robert Rodriguez is a former high school star in El Paso, played at UTEP, and then had a moment in the NFL, maybe, and then went into coaching, and he's been with ASU. He was with UTEP for a while, and then ASU, and now he's with the Cardinals, right?
Right, and he was with the Vikings before when
That's right.
Jonathan Gannon was there, so that was the connection. So when Herm leaves, and then he's like, got him a job, he's like, oh, Cardinals call. So it worked out great for him when he didn't have to leave town. And
right.
He was one of those kids, Matt, he was one of those kids where you look at him like, man, this kid's going to get it. No matter what he does, he's going to be successful because of the type of kid he was. And it's so cool for me. Every practice I go to and I see him, I'm like, man, I'm so proud of him.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'm proud, like I had something to do with it, but it's just cool to see. He proved me right, because I knew I had a feeling he was going to be a good kid, and now he's a great guy, great man, great coach too.
Yeah, and I think we all had that feeling about Robert early on. He was just one of those special guys who,
you called him a bum. You called him a bum. I said he was going to be stuff. That's my story. I'm thinking.
Not quite how I recall it, but okay. It was a long time ago.
I'm kidding.
We'll talk about your time in the borderland. It's been a long time now. I mean, but at the time, there was a lot going on. UTEP football team was good. The UTEP basketball team was good.
Yeah.
New Mexico State football and basketball was good.
Right.
Still had the El Paso Diablos, I think.
We did.
Right.
Yeah. When I was there, the D-backs became a franchise, and the AA affiliate for the Arizona Diamondbacks was the El Paso Diablos.
That's right.
And so I've been covering the D-backs since day one. When you think about it, and I'll never forget. They bring the big league team to El Paso to kind of drum up some excitement. Buck Showalter's the manager. We're like, man, that guy was with the Yankees, and da da da. I remember everybody was kind of like cautiously approaching him. And I just went up and I go, "Hey, Skip, my name's Richard Saenz," and I stick my hand out. And to this day, the Spanish play-by-play guy is named Richard Saenz. So he looks at me up and down because he knew that Richard Saenz, and he goes, "No, you're not." And I go, "I'll be whoever you say I am, but can I have the interview, please?" And he laughed, and we laughed. And then when I got here, I went and found the real Richard Saenz. That's what I call him. I go, "You're the real Richard Saenz? I just play one on TV, man." It's a pretty cool story.
What's the moment in your time and how long were you in El Paso, by the way?
5 years.
Wow, it seems like more.
I know, right? Because we crammed a lot in.
Yeah, you did. You did. What stands out the most to you when you think about your time there?
Oh, the Oscar De La Hoya visit. I mean, I remember that was a big deal. Remember that he fought Patrick Charpentier, a French guy, and people were going crazy for that guy. That's when he was like the man. I'll never forget. I got a call from some guy says, "Hey, my buddy's it looks like Oscar De La Hoya, and I want to see if you want to do a story on him, and he gets a lot of girls because of that." And I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, and his guy's name was like, "Yeah, my name's David, and my friend." And I'm like, "What's your friend's name?" He's like, "David," and I'm like. He goes, "Okay, it's me." He's like, "I look like I was going to do a story on me." And I told my photographer, it was like a slow news day. I go, "You know what? I go, let's go to this guy's house. If he looks like De La Hoya, we'll do it. But if not, get a shot at me." I'm like, "I'm De La Hoya looking like number 2 then." But we did. He looked exactly like De La Hoya.
Did he really?
Yeah. And we went to the mall, and we just had the cameras following around, and people are like, "Hey, there's Oscar De La Hoya." So they thought it was Oscar De La Hoya. And I'll never forget, we walk up to a guy selling like De La Hoya, memorabilia T-shirts, and I'm like, "Hey, how much is the stuff?" I'm like, "Hey, I just want to point." And the guy goes, "Hey, what do you think about your stuff?" And it was like, that's how crazy people were. Wow. They would have believe anything at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. There was, do you remember the whole hubbub about like all these different celebrities were supposed to come to this fight, right? It was, like A-list actors and this and that. And I think the only one that showed up was Lou Ferrigno.
That's right. The Hulk. That is. You remember it was like really windy and the lights almost fell over that night. It was crazy.
Yeah, we had to run for our lives on press row. I mean, it got serious there because those lights were really swaying. And at one point they told everybody to evacuate. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I remember I jumped a fence that I had no business jumping. I'm lucky I didn't kill myself then and there. But yeah, it was scary. Yeah, for a minute.
And I was there when Don Haskins retired. I remember that was a big deal. So yeah, quite a few stories. And then when UTEP went to the Humanitarian Bowl in Boise, Idaho, it was our first bowl game since like 1988. And it was really cool. They had a good run there with Gary Nord.
Gary Nord, that's right. Yeah. And then New Mexico State.
Yeah.
George is a New Mexico State grad, so we got to fit them in, I guess.
I was there when they went to the tournament. They had Charles Gosa and Billy Keys. They were leading Kentucky at the half when Lou Henson was their coach in basketball. Yeah, they had a good. And I could make a sitcom of the station I worked at. We had a guy named T-shirt. I nicknamed him T-shirt Tony because he was legally blind, but he wore a T-shirt every day to work, and there were T-shirts of concerts that he went to, and like he actually went to. So like if the Eagles were in town, he wore Eagles T-shirts. So anyway, his mom had to drive him to work because he was legally blind. He's like 45 years old, and guess what he did for Channel 4? He ran camera. And he was legally blind. And we wonder why we were 5th in the ratings, And my biggest pet peeve is if my tie's crooked or not. So I'd be like, "Hey, Tony, is my tie straight?" He'd go, "Oh, never mind, bro. Never mind. Just don't even move the camera." So he says he's going to go watch LL Cool J in Las Cruces. So I'm like, "Tony, your mom has to drive you and you live 5 blocks away. How are you going to get to Las Cruces?" He's like, "I'm going to take the Greyhound." I'm like, "No, dude, I'll take you." So T-shirt Tony and I drive to Las Cruces, New Mexico, go to the Pan Am Center. LL Cool J's in concert. It was the first time I'd ever seen anybody make it rain. He literally threw money in the air and it's floating. I'm like, "That's not real money. I'm not going to be a jerk and reach for money." Well, I lost T-shirt Tony. He comes back with $8. I'm like, "I got it." I'm like, "Oh, now you can see? Now you can grab money through the air, but you can't jump in my tie straight?" Oh, man, I'll never forget that.
T-shirt Tony.
T-shirt Tony. Whatever became of T-shirt Tony?
He's probably still there in Channel 4 getting driven to work by his mom. For all
I got to write that down.
He should tell you, man. He should
Yeah, look
tell
for
you.
him.
$8. He snagged it out of the air. I'm like, really? Now you can see.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. Great time.
So what, Richard? What got you into journalism? I know you're a native of San Antonio, correct?
Right. Yeah, and my Twitter bio kind of says that I decided to become a sportscaster when I decided not to go pro when I was in the 7th grade. When I realized I wasn't good enough, that's when I was like, you know what? I might want to start working on Plan B. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But yeah, I've always been a sports fan. I played it all. Of course, wanted to, be a player for the San Antonio Spurs or the next Gervin when I was a kid. But yeah, but I was kind of like Google before Google, where I would get the football cards and I'd memorize the back. And then so my friends wanted to know, like, hey, Richard, where did Danny White go to college? I'm like, oh, he went to ASU. And, he was a punter, too. And I'm like, all right, dude, we just want to know where he went to college. And like if the, Cowboys are playing the Eagles, I'd have the cards on my bed. And I'd be doing the play-by-play in my room with the volume down on my TV. And my 2 older sisters would be getting ready to go on a date. And they'd be looking for their brush. And it was my microphone. And they'd come in and take my microphone away. She'd look at me and go, you're a dork, and like walk out. I'm like, I'm in the middle of a show here, So it's something that I always wanted to do ever since I was a kid.
Wow. Was Tom Dillon there in Phoenix when you were there? Did we lose him?
Richard, there you go.
Yeah.
We lost you.
Yeah, sorry about that. What was your question?
Was Tom Dillon there when you were in Phoenix? Was he still there?
No, but I have heard of him, and people speak really highly of him. But yeah, I never had a chance to work with him or really get to talk to him.
Yeah, he was the play-by-play guy at New Mexico State for a long time, and then he went to work for the Cardinals when they moved to Phoenix. So I know he didn't stick around there forever, but just wondering, he was kind of a guy who got me kind of involved in sports media as well. So.
And they have a good program, New Mexico State does. They have a good communications program. Jeremy Hohola was one of the guys that graduated from there. Now he's working in Denver. He does great work there. So a lot of good young talent has come out of it. When I was there, the football coach was Tony Samuel, who came from Nebraska. And I don't know why he was in El Paso one time. We went to that place, Acetuna. Do you remember that place, Acetunas? And I was there with my lady, and she was an anchor at a station, and she was, I had some game, I had some game. She was a good looking girl. And he met her and his eyes kind of got big and she walked off and he goes, you've been an overachiever, aren't you? And I told him, I go, hey man, it's just like recruit, man. If you bug long enough, then they're gonna say yes.
Yeah, that Tony Samuel years were pretty good. I mean, they
pretty decent, yeah.
I remember that one year. They were like, I think they won 7 games.
They did,
and they still didn't go to a bowl because back then, 2002, there weren't as many bids, right?
Right.
I mean,
right. Yeah, they should have gone. They had a good team. They might have beat Arizona State that year. I think they beat Arizona State.
They beat Arizona State one year over there, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a solid team, and I remember they had like a 2 quarterback system that worked. Like very rarely do 2 quarterback systems work, but
exactly
that year it did. You had the bruising runner, and then you had the passer, and it kind of it worked out well for him. So in San Antonio, when you were growing up and stuff, so did you have any major influences? Who were they?
It's funny because this past weekend we had the Super Bowl, and I brought my Super Bowl patch collection kit. Right, I have a patch of every single Super Bowl ever played, from 1967 in Super Bowl I to now. I have every single patch, and it's pretty cool. And I brought it in, and I was showing it to people, and somebody was like, "How did this start?" And I was like, "My mom started it for me when I was in 7th grade, right? Because my parents got divorced when I was 2, so my father wasn't really around that much. And so I asked her, I asked her recently, I go, Mom, why did you start that for me? Because I love it, right? I've kept it. And she goes, because I saw your passion for sports. She was like, you were like such a sports fanatic. I'm like, I got to get this kid, have his energy involved in this. And so that she got that started for me. So it's funny. I never really had somebody that was a big sports fan that I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a sports fan because of him or her. I just loved it. I just loved it. It was really interesting how that happened. My mom kind of nourished that.
Yeah. Do you still have those patches?
Oh yeah, I brought him to work, and it's pretty cool because it's a patch, and then it's got a synopsis of the game, and then it's got like the MVP, and on the back it's got every play-by-play. I always tell people, "Here's a glimpse into my inner nerd," because I used to. This is my computer before computers came out. I used to
Yeah.
read everything and read the plays, and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I remember that play." Yeah, they're really cool. Now I'm gonna be like a kid, like for Christmas, just checking the mail every day, waiting for the new patch to come in. I can't wait.
So did they have the logos of the Super Bowls, the patches?
It's funny, like it usually represents the city. It'll have like the Roman numeral numbers, and then they'll have the for New Orleans, it's probably gonna have
Right.
like some jazz stuff or
Right.
stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to see how elaborate the patches have gotten too from year one, the Super Bowl one in 1967, when it didn't even say Super Bowl. It just said NFL
Mhm.
Championship,
Mhm.
AFL, NFL. So it's pretty cool to see that.
And you can order those online, or how do you
Just
acquire
me,
them
nobody
each
else.
year?
Just me. Just
You
I'm the
got the
only one.
hookup,
I'm
right?
exclusive, man. No, yeah. You can order them online. Yeah,
Wow. Okay, that's pretty
it's pretty
awesome.
cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty neat.
You know what that brings up a sore spot for me, because it seems like every logo through like Super Bowl 50 or so, they were just as you described. They were, they were creative, and they were specific to whatever city they were in, and they had logo. Like if it was New Orleans, it was like the
Jazz,
color,
yeah,
yeah, jazz, and whatever. And it seems like right around Super Bowl 50, they changed it to like just a very sterile looking poster of a Lombardi trophy, right?
right,
And that was
right.
it.
Yeah, they might have some colors inside the Roman numerals, but before it's cool to see like the one in 1976 Super Bowl 10 bicentennial year. It's all red, white, and blue. It's got some silver in there. It looks pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy to see
So
how
I
things
kind of
change.
blame Roger Goodell for that, because
Somebody's got to take it.
right, exactly, crazy.
Yeah.
So talk about. I mean, I know I was surprised to find out that you were, because typically you're at the Super Bowl, correct?
Well, only if it's on Fox, which it was this year. So this year we didn't go, but I think we did a lot of traveling with ASU, so that helped out. But yeah, I've covered four of them. The first one I covered was here in Phoenix in 2008, when the undefeated Patriots were here, and the Giants, and Eli Manning, and Michael Strahan. And it was interesting because I was still kind of new. I started in '03, so there was another reporter that it's more, had more years, and so they were like, they're going to give her the choice of what locker room she wants to cover. She's like, oh, I want the Patriots, which I was like, I don't care. I just want to go to the Super Bowl. I didn't
Yeah.
want to. So I got the Giants, and they ended up
Mm.
winning. And so I'll never forget, because like I said, the Super Bowl, when I was a kid growing up in McAllen, Texas, before I even got to San Antonio, living in Section 8 housing, if somebody said, hey, you're going to go to the Super Bowl one day, that'd be like saying, hey, you're going to go to the moon one day. It seems so unattainable to me. So I remember when I'm on the field, I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually here. And then I run out there and I'm so pumped up. And there's, New York media, and they're all, and I just got in there and I was like talking to Michael Strahan. I'm like, nobody believes in Eli Manning. And they're like, dang, who's this guy? And I got his interview. And then I looked and I saw Roger Goodell there, and I just like bum rushed him. I didn't even ask him if I could interview him. I started doing a one-on-one with him, and I got him to say on cameras they were going to have another Super Bowl here. It was just, that was one of those moments where I laid in bed and I was just like, man, I cannot believe that I get paid for this. And it was just such a great feeling.
Yeah, that was huge. I was actually there, so we probably bumped elbows or something.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
the
probably. I probably bumped your elbow with my head, because that guy didn't get in there,
Yeah, and the fact that they, that was the year the Patriots were unbeaten and
right.
trying to accomplish all history and everything. And I think the funny thing was when the Giants landed and they had all those black suits on, like, right? Remember they said they were coming for a funeral?
Exactly.
And it was going to be the Patriots?
Yes. Yep.
It was so crazy. And the fact they pulled it off with Tyree and the helmet and all that.
When he made that catch, I was like, it's over. They're going to win this game.
Yeah, because the Patriots had never believed they'd lose that game.
No.
Never believed.
I think that's the second biggest upset in Super Bowl history. The biggest one, Super Bowl III, with the Colts and Jets. Yeah, it was. No, it was. Nobody was going to. But it's kind of funny because you look at this year's Super Bowl and it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're Tom Brady. I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes, Joe Montana, Joe Namath. You cannot throw when you're on your back. And that's the thing. They put pressure on Brady. And yeah, you got Randy Moss, but if you can't get him the ball because you're running for your life or getting knocked down, it don't matter.
Right.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
And it's funny how the remedy for success has always been defense, running the ball, attack the quarterback.
And being physical.
That's what the Eagles did.
Being physical.
Yeah.
Richard, were you surprised by what happened Sunday?
I was surprised by the blowout. I was telling people I think the Eagles are going to win this game because of defense and the run game. And I saw the game here when the Eagles were here with the Chiefs and the Eagles led at halftime, led after the third quarter. And I go, but the difference is the defense is better and they got Saquon Barkley. And the Chiefs kind of looked like a team that had won a couple and they were just expecting to win, you know what I mean? And so there's a reason why it's never happened in the NFL, 3 straight Super Bowls. And the last time it happened in any sport, I think was like Shaq and Kobe. So it's not an easy thing to do. The wear and tear on the body, everybody coming at you every single week. They play the Super Bowl every week in the regular season. You know, everybody knows, oh, Chiefs are coming. This is our Super Bowl.
Right. And they'd won so many games by a close number. You know, they could have gone either way. A lot of those games, they weren't like the dominant team, especially offensively, that they had been the last couple of years.
Exactly.
And Philly was just on the roll. They were one of those teams that, you know, they came together right at the right moment and played the kind of football that you need to play in the playoffs, especially to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you know what they reminded me of?
Mm-hmm.
You know they reminded me of? They reminded me of me when I was in 7th grade against the 5th graders. I could just run those guys over, and I was just pushing them like a sled. You know what I mean? I was killing them.
Dominate.
So, you know, most important question of the day here. What about the Chargers? What are they going to do next year? What do you think? I know this year they played the Cardinals and they lost like a heartbreaker, right?
Right.
Like early in the season. I think it was there. But what do you think? Next year's chances.
I like Coach Harbaugh. I mean, the guy wins, you know, everywhere he goes, and he still preaches that old style of being physical. He's big tight end,
like you said,
the ball. Yeah. So I think it's funny because, you know, I might have texted. I think it was you. I texted like, hey, two teams. You know, the Chargers are trending in the right direction, so I think they're going to be just fine, especially as long as they got Harbaugh. And I haven't given up on Herbert yet. I don't think. Have you?
No, but I mean, he needs to win a big game on his own, right? He's got to show some leadership and go out there and do it. He's whenever he's done it, he's had a lot of help. He's never really done it on his own. That's the mark of a great quarterback. He's not there yet. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I went one time as a fan just to watch the Chargers and Raiders play in SoFi. It was my nephew. We pick a different city. We go every year to watch a game. And
you came here one year. You came to Chicago one year.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
This year we went to SoFi, and it was the Chargers, and we always root for the home team. We don't want to be those guys, right? The obnoxious guys that are like, who are these dudes? You know. So we're like, hey, we're rooting for the Chargers. You know, because here in Arizona, it's legal to bet, so we made a bet on the Chargers. And we fly in, and I got a hotel. It's walking distance because you know how traffic is in LA, right? So I tell my nephew, hey, let's, just recon the area and walk around, then we'll come back and change. And we go, and the Raiders took over that place, man. And I forgot the Raiders used to be in LA, right? So there were a lot of Raider fans, and they did not look friendly at all. So I was like, whoa. So we get back to the room, and I come out of the bathroom, and I'm in all black. And my nephew's wearing a powder blue Charger T-shirt, and he looks at me, and he goes, I thought we were rooting for the Chargers. I'm like, did you see those guys out there? I go, on the outside, I'm Raider Nation. On the inside, I'm Chargers. And he goes, I better change. So he goes and he comes out with a red shirt on. I go, well, man, now the Crips are going to get us. Way to go. You're killing it, man. And so we go to the game, and it's halftime, and some guy looks at me. He's a Raider fan. He's looking me up and down. I'm like, oh, boy. And he goes, are you Raiders, bro? And I'm like, yeah, man, all the way, man. I don't want to trouble. I go, yeah, man. He goes, good. He goes, I'm about to jump this guy. You ready? And I go, oh. I go, no, I'm not ready. And he kind of like was shocked by what I said. I go, I'm not ready. He looked, because I didn't have my fighting shoes on. I had my dancing shoes on. Otherwise, I'd be down. Right? I ain't scared. I ain't no punk, And so I was like, why are you going to fight this guy? And he goes, because I bet him that if we were winning at halftime, he would owe me $20, and the Raiders were winning. He's like, and he hasn't paid me. And I go, but how much did you pay for your ticket? And he goes, $150. I go, so you're going to miss out on $150 for $20? And he goes, you know what, man, you're right. And I go, told my nephew, let's get our drinks, let's get out of here.
Typical Raider fan.
Raider
Yeah,
Nation.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the Chargers ended up winning. It's pretty funny.
Wow.
Yeah, was that the game that I think they dominated that game, didn't they? I think it was a
It
blowout.
was close because they were
Was
losing
it?
at halftime, and Herbert had to make a. They went for it on fourth down, and he made like a perfect throw.
Yeah.
It was really it was a good game. Good game.
Yeah, he's usually pretty good against the Raiders.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Let's move on to the next topic, please. Listen, move on. Yeah, move on.
So, Rich, tell me, you talked about like starting out in McAllen, growing up, and like what made you feel like? I mean, I guess back then you probably didn't even think that achieving your dreams was even a possibility.
Right, I just wanted to get into the games for free, man, because we were broke. You know what I mean? And so I really love Howard Cosell was one of my. You asked me who were some of my inspirations. Howard Cosell was one of them. There was a guy named Dan Cook who worked in San Antonio. Was also one of them. He had his own little column, and I'd always read it and whether I agreed with it or not and stuff. And I was just always that kid that loved sports. And it's funny because I kind of did expect I was going to do this, but there's sometimes I'm like, man, I really did. Because I remember like there was one time where we were underage, me and my buddies, and we were at a party, and the police came and just gave everybody minor in possession tickets of alcohol. And I wasn't even drinking, I was driving. And I was like really like upset. And my buddy was like, dude, what is the big? I'm like, I can't be a sportscaster on TV and have a record. And I was like already thinking I'm on the air.
Yeah.
And they were like, dude, you're not on the air yet. Like easy. But I was already like, that was my mindset. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. And a lot of times when I first, got in the TV business, I went back home and my friends were like, man, that's what you said you were gonna do. And I'm like, yeah. Why does that have to be such a big deal? If you say you're gonna do something, work hard and do it. And that's what I like to help local kids here. I'm part of the mentorship program with the Cronkite School at Arizona State. And I tell them, look, just go for it. Just go for it. The money will come, man. Just do what you love. And it's not like you've ever worked a day in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are kids today as excited about sports journalism?
It's funny. At the Cronkite School, they are, because those kids are the cream of the crop. It's one of the best, if not the best, radio, TV communication program in the country. So they have some of them, and that's why they pair me up with incoming freshmen, because it's the highest dropout rate because it's their first time away from home. They're from Chicago, San Francisco, and they have a roommate for the first time. So I'll take them to lunch and talk to them, and these kids are sharp, and they motivate me. So it's pretty cool to see.
That's good.
So one last thing I want to talk to you about. Of course, we've attended a few fights together. There were some big fights that went to El Paso when we were there. What kind of started your love for boxing?
Well, I boxed for 5 years. I boxed oranges the first year, apples the second year. I was undefeated as a grocer. But no, my father was my inspiration in boxing. That was the one sport he liked. He never watched any other sports but boxing. And so that was and I'll never forget, 1987. I'm graduating from high school, and my dad goes, "What do you want for your graduation?" And I knew he was probably already going. I go, "I want to go see Hagler Leonard in Vegas." He's like, "You do?" And so we went. It was great.
Wow.
I missed like 3 days of school. I think he forgot that I was underage. He kept giving me $20 and say, "Hey, go gamble," and I just make a lap and come back. I got home with $120. Bought me some Filas. I was pumped. It was such a great time, and I was a big Sugar Ray fan. That's my favorite fighter. And so it was really cool. And then, I don't know if you remember, Matt, a guy by the name of Jerry Truax.
Yeah.
And he was in El Paso, and he was like just starting out. And I just wanted to help him out because I love boxing. I remember helping him out, whenever he had a fight. And then fast forward 20 years later, he's working with Golden Boy Promotions in De La Hoya, and they're fighting in San Antonio, and I go down to take my dad to a fight, kind of return the favor. Well, Jerry and Lester Bedford helped me out and got me some really great ringside tickets, and my dad had a great moment. It was like a full circle moment. It was really
awesome.
cool, man. It was a lot of fun. We had a great time.
That's tremendous. Which fight was it? Do you remember?
It was the Munguia fight. The Jaime Munguia fight was fighting there, and we got there early. And every time you guys know, we get stuff in the media all the time, T-shirts and blah blah blah. So I always send my boxing T-shirts to my dad. And the morning of the weigh-ins, I'm walking to my dad's room to see if he's awake. I hear him talking to his wife, and he's like, "Should I wear my De La Hoya T-shirt just in case I meet Oscar De La Hoya?" And his wife goes, "You think you're going to meet Oscar De La Hoya?" And he's like, "Well, this guy with Richard, you never know." And I'm like, "Oh, great, no pressure, right?" And it was like an old school one. And we get there, and sure enough, De La Hoya comes out, and everybody's going around him, and I just go, "Hey, Oscar, say hi to my dad." And he kind of looked at him, and then you saw the T-shirt, and he was like, "Damn, that's like an old school one." And he moved the crowd, moved like a sea of people. He moved it, and he puts his arm around my father. He goes, "Let's take a picture with Dad." And I took a picture. My dad was giddy. It was so awesome. It was such a great moment. It was so much fun. And boxing's brought a lot of joy to me and my family. That's for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story.
It was, it was one of the best days we've ever had. It was really cool. Yeah.
So, Richard, when are you going to be back here in Chicago so I can see you?
I know. I got to get back out there. I still have cousins that live there. One of them just retired from the police department in Oak Lawn. So they usually come from spring training, but I keep promising them that I'm going to go out there. I'll never forget the first time I went out there, early 90s, and my mid-90s, maybe late 90s, and my cousin was just got on the police force. So we're walking down the street. He's in full uniform. I see a guy on the other side of the street walking towards me with burnt orange. So I'm thinking, oh, he's a fellow Longhorn, you know? So I see him, I'm like, "Hey, hook 'em horns." And he was all KGB or something, I don't know, some gang that wore orange. I didn't know. I'd never seen a gang member in my life. And he was like, "Dude, put your hands in your pocket." He just knifed the jab of my Texas. And I'm like, "But the horns." He's like, "No, he's not hooking horns." I was like, "Welcome to Chicago." It was so funny. But yeah, I got to get back out there, that's for sure. Because I got 5 different families of cousins, and they all fight to entertain me. I feel so loved. I love it. It's great.
I live right next to Oak Lawn.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's funny. Yeah.
That's
where Dwayne Wade's high school was there, or something like that, in Oak Lawn. Richard's high school.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, thank you, man. It's a great seeing you. You're a riot, funny, and one of the best sports writers and reporters out there.
Am I the drum? No.
Awesome.
Hey, man, always great talking to you, man. Nice to meet you guys. It's a lot of fun, man. Anytime. Let's do it again.